Coming up, the Gulf of Starship claims its second victim, robots on the moon, and we discuss going to Mars the right way and with the right stuff. All on the next Orbital Edge. Hello and welcome to Orbital Edge News, a brand new show for new spaceflight fans. And let's start off with a bunch of launches. We got a lot to get through here. So we're going to start off in China. And this is going to be with the Long March 2C launch. And liftoff occurred on February 27th at 7:08 Universal Coordinated Time at the Jiuquan Launch Center in China. The payload on this vehicle is the SuperView Neo-1, which is two high-resolution optical satellites which serve natural resource detection, urban safety, emergency management, and maritime affairs, providing users with rich data products and diverse application services. And our next launch is from the Soyuz, and this is going to be the MS-30 mission, and it's going to be using the 2.1A launch vehicle. And this will resupply the International Space Station from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, Kazakhstan, on 27th of February 2025 at 21:24 UTC. The mission will deliver about 3 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the crew aboard the International Space Station. And another Russian launch. This will be launching the GLONASS K2 spacecraft. This launched on Sunday, March 2nd, 4:22 UTC at the Placetus Cosmodrome in Russia. One day I'm going to pronounce that correctly. The payload on this launch, again, is the GLONASS-K2, and it is a navigation satellite, which is the 4th generation of this series. And last on our launches, an Orion 6, and it finally lifts off its second flight with absolute success. This launch was on March 6th with a liftoff time of 4:24 Universal Coordinated Time. This launch will carry the Composante Spatiale Optique 3, or CSO-3 for short. This high-resolution reconnaissance satellite will add to the French military's defense capabilities. Well, that finally wraps up our launches. Let's move on to some space news, and we're going to start with the most recent space news that I had to kind of squeeze in here. It was with the Starship Rapid Unplanned Disassembly. It was with flight IFT-8. It was the 8th test flight of the Starship. Now, this launch did happen on March 6th, and it was alleged that a fuel leak may have been the cause of this explosion. Kind of weird because the last failure is very similar to this one, which happened on the IFT-7 flight. A comment right here we just got here. It's by Get Off the Internet 6969. He says, looks like the atmosphere took a chainsaw to that rocket. Yep. That just speaks for itself right there. We're going to talk more about this mission that had failed spectacularly on After Dark. For those of you who do donate, you're going to get that right away. For the rest of you, it's going to come about a week later on demand. So up next in space news, Sunita Williams and Butch up in the ISS is finally coming home. The tentative date for this will be March 19th. They'll take a ride from the Crew 9 capsule that is currently docked at the International Space Station. And next up, we've got Starship coming to Florida, right in my home. Awesome. So this is finally going to open up Starship operations at Cape Canaveral. Their goal is to get an actual Starship launch by the end of 2025. But, yeah, there's a but. This is only going to add 600 jobs. That's probably not going to be enough jobs to probably get a launch going here in 2025. Here we're already almost in the middle of March, and we don't have a whole lot of activity going up at the Cape here that I've seen that's, you know, rapidly building infrastructure for this. So I don't know if you think I'm wrong, just let me know down in the comments of why that is. If you've got any peer-reviewed research that might indicate that there will be, you know, that it's feasible to have a launch by the end of 2025. You know, just let me know. You know, sometimes it could be wrong, you know, with these things, and you know, the scheduling, and you know, anything goes. It is a big ship. It's a complex project that's supposed to be, you know, of course, contracted with the HLS Human Landing System for Artemis. With that said, we're going to move on to the last bit of space news, and that is we have a successful private moon landing finally. This was by Firefly Aerospace. Awesome. Let's look at this. Is so awesome. We're going to play this footage of the landing. Is just absolutely mind-blowing. They're just picking up all this moon dust and debris. Look at that little piece they're just shooting out. Like, this is so cool. And this is what I love to see. I'm just gonna point up here some really good high resolution still photos of this landing. So I hope you guys enjoy these. Let me know what you think in the comments of this mission. And it's a great way to kind of, you know, put kind of some good closure to these, you know, big wave of private moon landers that have been launched this last month here. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, going to Mars the right way. Stay tuned. Don't go away. Welcome back. So Mars, why do we go? There's all sorts of reasons why. There's groups of people that think we're going to go to Mars to just mass colonize the planet and immediately try to turn the planet into something that's got an atmosphere, clouds, growing grass, and things like that. Of course, that's really ambitious. There are quite a few visionaries out there that think that this might be a reality, and then there's the camp of people that they want to go there with, you know, some actual purpose, you know, scientific research, exploration, seeing those first signs of life. So over the course of probably the last few decades, there have been Mars architectures that have outlined actual justifications of going and what infrastructure will be used to get us to Mars. So we're probably going to go start back to the 1990s, where there was an architecture called Mars Direct. This was coined by a scientist named Robert Zubrin. And what this would basically do is launch a couple precursor missions to Mars that would first get a return vehicle on the planet. This would be an unmanned, also some sort of a fuel creation plant. I wish I had a better term. Can't remember what they're exactly called, but they take the atmosphere of the planet and create fuel out of the carbon dioxide, mixing with some sort of other reaction, maybe hydrogen, to come up with whatever fuel they'll need for that return vehicle. So, you know, that architecture has been around. Not everybody agrees with it. Each of these architectures I'm going to go through have their own advantages and disadvantages. So the next one on my list I want to really go over is The Martian. This, of course, is based on the movie The Martian. This was released in 2015. Now, The Martian architecture, again, would do some precursor missions that get a return vehicle on the surface to Mars, which would be called the MAV, the Mars Ascent Vehicle. I would have a big ship called the Hermes. This architecture actually kind of parallels the old Mars constellation that NASA kind of drew up plans for, but we never really saw the light of day on there. Again, that involves a big ship with a rotating habitat for, of course, your or for your artificial gravity, which is a really cool idea. Further cool things about this architecture is the use of the Nerva nuclear engines, which would get the crew there at a faster time. So maybe somewhere between 2 or 3 months. Also, it involves private and public partnerships, would just help increase the funding needed to get this mission there. Again, I like it. It's a cool way to go to Mars. It does foster doing science when you get there and learning how to do things when you get there on your own. Of course, 3D printing is going to be a big thing when you get down there. You're going to need to start making your own parts, replacement parts when things break. Also, the maintenance of things. The Martian also allows engineers to start building out a framework for future mass colonization. So starting to learn how to build larger habitats there with the tools that they can only create there with the 3D printing. Of course, some raw materials can be shipped from Earth for them to use as well on that. The next architecture on the list is the SpaceX architecture. This one would only be privately funded, so this would limit their ability to do a lot of things, unfortunately. The ascent vehicle is also the descent vehicle, and is also the transit vehicle, and is also the habitat. So this architecture kind of has a problem with having all eggs in one basket. So, the dangers of the fuel being in the same area that your crew is sleeping is kind of would make them not want to pay. It's something like that. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing I've got fuel below me about ready to explode if something were to happen. Also, this mission would probably be a longer transit time since it would be using a methylox fuel, so it wouldn't be as an efficient engine as using something like the Nerva that either the Constellation / the Martian would use. So that's kind of like the core of the ones I want to go over. What we really the goal here is we need to foster short-term framework to build up the scientific research and the engineering framework, to start building out those habitats and then finding those initial signs of life. Of course, rock samples, soil samples, start studying those, as well as learning what materials are going to work best for building habitats. How are they going to grow food on Mars? Those questions will be answered once they actually, land on Mars and actually have that real world experience, because robots and the robotic missions and like that with the rovers, they're going to do maybe 70-80% of that work, of course leaving still questions that need to be answered. So this is exactly why we need to get humanity there, so we can finally answer all those questions that we've been dying to get answered. And of course, once all this stuff is initially built up, the mass colonization can follow. So this is where SpaceX's Starship can come in. The thing about their ship, it's two verticals. I can't see it being very viable as a lander. You've got the big problem of an elevator that's way up here, and then it can only ferry like 3 to 6 people at a time down to the surface. So imagine building out a colony, but having that limitation. That's a huge bottleneck and getting any sort of efficient work done on Mars. There's probably a whole host of other issues with this. However, that's probably we'll save that for another show. With everything I've discussed, I think a hybrid model would be the best going forward. We're in 2025 now, so we've kind of We've got reusability, reusable rockets, things like that. So with all that said, and with the hardware we have now, 2025, this is what we would need to do. We'd use Space Launch System for all of our cargo launches. That would include the precursor missions to start getting supplies there before the crew arrives. And then the Starship crew can ferry crew back and forth to the ship that will be built in Earth orbit. It'll be pieced together by modules. This makes, it's a more robust ship to have. Plus, with artificial gravity, you only want one part of that ship to be artificial gravity. You don't want the whole thing. There's just a lot of people that are saying, what Starship would do is they would use thrusters and spin the entire ship. That is a horrible idea. We're not going to get into that right now on why that's a horrible idea. But having only part of a large ship be a spinning habitat is definitely a more viable solution. So Starship can also be used to land a habitat on the Mars surface. This, again, would be an unmanned mission where the habitat itself would be a spacecraft. It would be the lander. So it would, of course, do the aero braking. It would have a heat shield on it. Just land like any of our previous robotic landers have landed. So it'd be cool for that use case to get a habitat down there before the crew arrives. Also, I want to talk about like the rockets and launchers and their role here. They don't have to evolve for any of these Mars missions because all they're doing is lifting up mass. The Space Launch System is going to be able to get stuff there. Starship, again, is another vehicle that can get stuff there. The Vulcan rocket, the new one by United Launch Alliance, maybe it might get stuff there. I'd have to do a little further research on that, but if anybody in the comments know what the Delta V capabilities are of the Vulcan rocket, that it might be able to carry some payload to Mars, do let me know down in the comments. And last, I really want to just wrap up this topic here with, like I've said before, starships doing that mass colonization would be something that we'd do towards the end, again, because just the way it's designed is just best suited for it to take care of taking 100 people, 80 people. I know that number is going to go down as that ship actually evolves. So it's, I'm not going to talk any more about it because there's just a lot of unknowns about this. Well, yep, we're going to cut the topic off right there, but we're going to take another break, and when we come back, comments from last show. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We'd like to thank all the subscribers and commenters that have helped make this show engaging. For the last show that we did, this was about Elon Musk and Doge and how he might be up to some bad things with NASA. The worst case scenario is he might actually get rid of NASA and just only fund what he wants to do, which is probably not a lot of things. He claims he wants to go to Mars. But everything I think is just about him doing Starlink. But we definitely discussed that on the show. We definitely got some feedback. We definitely need to get through here. But we do have this first comment from Andrew Mason on YouTube. He said, "Truth be told, SpaceX should distance itself from Elon Musk. Allowing the man to continue to act as its figurehead, CEO, etc., is causing a lot of bad press to come to the company. And bad PR will harm its chance of being awarded contracts and its stock prices." Okay, I just want to first address that little last part there. They are not publicly traded, they're private, so there isn't really any issue with stock here. But yes, he does need to, for what he's doing, he needs to step back because he is making the company look really bad. There are workers at SpaceX who have definitely raised their concerns about Elon Musk, but it kind of have good news. He hasn't stepped foot on SpaceX property for about 4 months. So, I mean, can we consider him stepped down from SpaceX? You know, that's what one of the episodes we did last year. I was kind of predicting maybe he would step down from SpaceX. So time will still tell. Right now, this whole political spectrum of Elon Musk is really, really, really shaky. So let's just see what happens. Also, let me know in the comments down below if you're pro or against Elon, and if you were, pro Elon, and when did you start to pull away from having Elon Musk as somebody to look up to? I am really curious, so please let me know down below. If you used to like the guy and then you don't. I kind of want to know, what my audience is. So, in the future, these episodes are going to start getting geared to a more specific audience. So I need to know who to make the show for, and I don't want to make the show for wrong people. So you really gotta get down there and write out your comment and tell me how you feel. This next comment comes from Milena Lukakowski. I'm really bad with names. You just forgive me ahead of time for all any complex names. And she says off of Blue Sky, good. Give Elon Musk all the contracts so the world can finally see how inept he is at running a business. If gutting the FAA wasn't horrifying enough, wait until SpaceX Starlink, which falls out of the sky more often than it works, takes over the FAA. Musk's only success is deadly failure. Yeah, I agree with that for the most part. The FAA is a scary thing. He can't just go wherever he feels and says, Starlink for everything. I don't like this. It needs Starlink. First of all, that's the biggest conflict of interest I've stressed on the show. That's all I have to say about that is other than Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, Elon Musk isn't really known for stability, meeting up with his promises to stakeholders. He's actually bad at everything, but you can't just keep living off his success of Falcon 9. It's 2025. You gotta move on. You gotta start doing good in other things. Now, whether you believe it or not, he's trying to do good things with Starship, right? That's already raising yellow flags, and we've been raising these yellow flags on the show too about his treatment of the Starship program recently and his intentions with Starship. We're going to leave that discussion for further analysis on After Dark. So again, you're going to be able to see that in about a week on demand, but for people who donate, we'll get that out to you right away. And our final comment comes off of YouTube. I saved this for last because this is huge. This guy had a lot of points he tried to make. I'm just going to start reading this as fast as I can, and we're going to actually pick away our counter argument to this in a modular form. So we'll take about 5 points, and then I'll provide my rebuttal on that. So Joe Mama off of YouTube says this. This is absolute nonsense. Elon has always maintained that there needs to be competition in the orbital launch industry. Your ridiculous assertion that the money Doge is saving will go right into the pockets of SpaceX it's not only baseless, but entirely unlikely. Never mind that SpaceX has saved the federal government tens of billions of dollars in launch costs in its short existence. You also make an enormous assumption that profitability gets in the way of Mars missions. This is why Elon never took SpaceX or Starlink public. They are there to enable the Mars missions. Anyone who is serious about the future of NASA should fully be on board with what Elon is and has been doing. He single-handedly saved the American space program. Honorable mention to Rocket Labs as well. As much as you can legitimately call them an American launch provider, they have done great work over the last decade. Other than disagreeing with his politics, I have heard nothing from the pearl-clutching crowd about actual wrongdoing or hurting the space program. Curious where this opinion was when ULA was getting billions of dollars in contracts they did not deserve because of their legacy connections to Washington. That is money NASA can't afford. Lastly, Elon does not have the authority to cut federal funding or to grant it. He simply advises. Okay, here's where we're going to start. He said he doesn't think money's going to go to the pockets of SpaceX. Well, if the FAA is any indication, yeah, that is his intentions. I mean, the writing is on the wall. He wouldn't be doing this for any other reason other than, this is for his own ego. He's just doing this just to brute colonize Mars. He doesn't care about the science. He doesn't care about the engineering. He just wants to get people there, and then they arrive, and then it's, well, now what? Like, just flags and footprints. That's just the stupidest reason to be going to Mars. So, we can move on to the second one, where he's concerned about, Elon says there needs to be competition. Oh God. Well, so there's a problem with that. Show me where he has said that. We're not seeing that. I also want to reiterate, you can't wish competition. You have to actually, it speaks in your actions, what you're doing. Like, what are you doing to facilitate competition? Everything he's doing is anti-competitive. This is exactly why payloads are mysteriously disappearing from the Atlas V. Vulcan rocket is mysteriously not getting payloads, and all these rockets are disappearing from the Cape. Yeah, come on. We all know what's really going on here. The third thing I want to pick away here is there seems to be a miscontext on the profitability of Mars missions, and stakeholders not going public. That was just a generality among many private companies. So again, I don't know what he was really on there. For the fourth thing I want to address here is he thinks anybody who's serious about the future of NASA should be fully on board with what Elon has been doing. That's like a cultist. I've seen responses to this on our YouTube, and that is definitely a cultist mentality to have about this. If you're gonna do things, you need to do it right and legally. If Elon had the best product ever, he would not be trying to undermine other space companies and undermine NASA. The whole thing is about you need to have that better product. Right now, Elon Musk hasn't demonstrated that better product. With two identical explosions of Starship over the last few months, isn't really showing you have, the best product on the market. So, again, we're going to revisit this later. It's about being objective and critical, which this comment really was not being about. It just seems that it was too emotionally driven, and it was just about feelings. But we're objective on the show, and we need to make sure that we stay that way. So, the final thing I want to address, where the concern is the opinion of when United Launch Alliance was getting billions of dollars in contracts and claiming that ULA doesn't deserve them because of connections to Washington. First of all, that's the big irony. Connections to Washington, like Elon's connections to Washington. So already your argument was self-contradictory right there. And then, again, this is how it's supposed to work. What does legacy have to do with anything? And NASA can't afford this. They just get budget undercutted each year. And SpaceX has only saved NASA in this contextual regard with respect to the commercial crew program. great on them. But again, it's 2025. Right now, they don't have a product out that is better than everything in the world. So Elon Musk definitely needs to check his ego at the door and understand that you can't ride the coattails of, the commercial crew program and the CTS, the cargo, as well as the Falcon 9 rocket. Gone. Those days are gone. But understand this, any company can do good things at first, but the conflict of interest will still be there, which you failed to agree with. I would have clearly voted in someone fully authorized, trained, and educated to lower the cost to NASA, all while not retiring any of our rockets, keeping our jobs, and increasing access to space with more launch options. Understand right now, we have less launch options than we did about 8-9 years ago. Guys, that's pretty scary. In order to get people excited about space, we got to get these numbers up. We got to have more rocket families in service. We need to have a huge launch cadence of many companies launching, at Vandenberg and here at the Cape. Lastly, Elon Musk is not the person qualified to carry this mission out. Absolutely not qualified. We're slowly seeing, the reasons why he's doing what he's doing, and the means to the end are not really aligning with the whole scope of what NASA's mission is, and that is scientific exploration and also human exploration out into the cosmos. Everything is starting to gear in a more dystopia way of going to space. Well, we want more of a utopia way of going to space. But I'm out of breath here, so yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. We're going to do After Dark right after this. So, yeah. Hope you guys learned a lot, and we will see you next time.